It just seemed like TJ Power was destined to be a Boston College Eagle until he wasn't.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black, editor of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. So this is not going to be a fun episode because we had been talking for over a week now about the potential of Duke transfer forward TJ Power transferring to Boston College. You know, it has been a saga. We had seen him enter the portal. We saw him on campus just last week. We had heard that there was good buzz around him potentially landing here. I felt confident from things I had heard. And then on Monday morning, we got the bad news. I think it was Trilly Donovan, who is he's got his own thing going on Discord Premium, broke the news that TJ Power was transferring to UVA. So all in all, the Eagles lose out on a, blue chipper, a kid that a legacy that was, from the area that, would have been one of their biggest recruits / transfers of all time, which just leaves you feeling empty inside. It makes you feel like this, and this is what I said when I made my crystal ball for TJ Power to BC. I said, yeah, I feel good about this right now, but remember, this is Boston College. We have been kicked in the groin enough to know what this feels like. And we don't know exactly why. We don't know why he chose to go to UVA. Maybe someday we will, but he's not coming here. And that's the bottom line. And this is a major loss for Boston College because it looked like Power would have been a nice forward to build your roster around, someone with good potential to score points, potential to also stretch the floor. Not to say he was going to do what Quentin Post did, but he could do that more than obviously like Chad Benning, the kid that they got from St. Bonaventure. He was going to give you something you desperately needed, plus some excitement for the program. All of that is gone. Now you look at the roster and you start to gulp because you have, as we've said all along, lost 6 guys to the transfer portal, including a 7th with Quentin Post graduating and heading to the NBA draft. He got invited to the draft combine, which is a cool thing too, right? So you look at the roster now. Where is the scoring going to come from? You have Dion Brown from Loyola. Sorry, not Loyola. UMBC. You have some scoring potential in Donald Hand. I feel like he could do that. But you don't have a scorer in your bigs. Like you had Devin McLaughlin, you had Quentin Post. You're bringing in Chad Benning, who averaged about 10, and then Jaden Hastings is a big shrug emoji. You don't know what you're getting with him. Will he take, because he got redshirted, will he take that step, in development that made Devin McLaughlin so lethal when he got in here? Remember, McLaughlin came in under-recruited. He wasn't a big name. He redshirted, and all of a sudden you're watching this kid go, wow, who is this kid? Will Hastings be able to do the same thing with that extra year under his belt? He looks like an explosive player, but how explosive will he be at the college level? This isn't IMG Academy anymore. This is a different program. You brought in Josh Beadle, who I hear is a high-energy guy, but you look at the statistics and it's a little underwhelming, right? He averaged 4 points per game. He really wasn't much of a factor for Clemson. Boston College is a great place to be a reclamation project. We saw it with a lot of different players here. Will he be able to do that? Will Earl Grant be able to do that with Beadle? Because that's another key factor. You lost. Look at your guard position. You lost Zachary Madsen, Claudel Harris. You lost 3 of your top 3 guards just to the portal. I also wonder if Mason Matson regrets it at this point because Utah is having quite the exodus themselves, but that's besides the point. You now are, there's a lot of question marks on this team. And maybe there are answers. Maybe there will be answers next year. Maybe Chaz Kelly will be the answer. Maybe Donald Hand will take a step up. Maybe Fred Payne will recover in time to be effective this year. Maybe the freshmen, Taves and Nick Petronio, will become, role players for this team. But do you hear what I'm saying? Maybe, 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 maybe. Last year, you didn't have this many maybes. You had solid answers. You knew Quinton Post was coming back. You had your number one right there. You had Jaden Zachary coming back. You had your Robin to your Batman right there. You felt more comfortable last year going into the summer that BC was going in the right direction. You felt like Earl Grant had his program in a good spot. Right now, there are so many questions that could go either way. Like, yeah, they could happen, or this could be a giant train wreck next year. We don't know until we see. You either have a lot of faith that he knows what he's doing, or you're questioning where this program is going. I don't know what I feel about where things are right now. I don't see. I see a lot of programs in the ACC getting significantly better. I look at a team like Syracuse, who was, they haven't been all that great recently, and they have stocked up. I look at a team like Pitt, a team like Virginia, who just landed 2 transfers today. Like, every team seems to be going forward. NC State, like, even after their big year, they're going forward. Then I look at little old BC. They don't seem to be doing much of that. They seem to be treading water right now, and that is worrisome. That makes me think this next year could be really tough for them. Now, to be fair, you can't make a fair evaluation of what they're going to be next year right now, because they still have, I believe, 3 transfer portal spots left on this roster. Now, the numbers and players that are available are shrinking by the day, and the more silence that we get, the more unsettling that gets. But there's still an opportunity for Earl Grant to go out there and get a couple guys that could improve the look of this program, to improve the talent, and get you guys that could help make sure that you win your out of conference games and challenge in the ACC. Because you're Boston College right now, you don't have a superstar. I don't see them bringing in a superstar, but maybe that's what we need. Maybe that's what Boston College needs, is just to really round this out and hope that your team gels into something. Now, in a moment, I want to talk a little bit about another name, and I'm going to repeat one of the names I brought up the other day that BC could be looking at, names that you may want to watch. We'll get into all that in just a moment. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Are you a big Boston fan? It's like crazy playoff season right now in Beantown with the Bruins and Celtics. I think they play every day this week. Like, if you are setting out your social schedule, you can go bing, 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 bing. But if you're feeling good about Boston, go get the money lines on FanDuel. Go get the spreads on FanDuel. You can find any prop bet you want on FanDuel. It'll keep you busy during this very, very busy playoff season. That's 100. So right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, playoff props, and more. So visit fanduel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. This is Locked On BC. AJ Black. The power is out. That's what I could title. I had to go with that title. That's the part that bums me out more than the potential of what he could have brought to the program are the puns, because power is a perfect name to make for a million different sports related puns, and I'm losing out on that. So I'm upset about that. But Now that we know he's gone, he is heading to UVA. He's going to go to Charlottesville. He's going to be a Who. What does Boston College do now? How does BC attack the portal with what's left? Because a lot of the big names, BC would have never have landed. Like you know the names you see, right? Kadari Richmond of from Seton Hall, he was never coming here. You get kids from Miami, the center from Miami, who ended up at Baylor. He's not coming here. But you look at the names of guys that maybe Boston College could be battling for, and you have to wonder, will BC be able to land a couple? Or are we more in line to expect a CJ Penna type where you're getting it from a JUCO, D2 type college, and you're like, who the heck is this guy? And they're fine on the end of the bench, but you're looking for more on the front end of the bench, right? I mean, front end starters slash role players. That's the big question because we have not seen BC connected to many other players right now. Now, one name that I'm interested to see if maybe there's going to be a connection is Chisholm Okpara of Harvard. Now, this is a power forward built the same. He's 6'8", 2 something, 225 pounds from Bronxville, New York. He went to La Lumiere High School in Indiana, and he has, last year in his sophomore year, averaged 16.5 points per game to go along with 5 rebounds per game. Against BC, he was electric with 20 points. He had 20 points against the Eagles in that game that the Eagles won. Now, he may be more established than what TJ Power is. You look at what he can do. I mean, he had 20 plus points in a lot of games this past year. Would he be as exciting? Is he going to catch more attention? Probably not. But, sometimes it just takes playing a game. Guys like Devin McLaughlin, he wasn't a big name when they recruited him. And by the time he left, he had a little bit of a cult following at Boston College. So I wonder with this one. Now, in the recruiting circles, I've heard Stanford thrown around a lot. So that might be the team to beat. But now that Power is out of the question, and maybe what was happening was Okpara was not pushed towards the top, and you had TJ Power, hopefully you're hoping that he was going to take that spot. Now he's gone. Maybe this is option B. Be a nice option B, having a guy that's averaging 16.5 points per game for Harvard. So he could be a name that I think, you'd have to make sure you offer him a big role on the team. This is a guy that's going to want to go and play somewhere. So maybe that could be something. Or maybe he just ends up at Stanford and then we're still back at square one again. But the other name that I go back to is Eli Wilborn. Eli Wilborn out of St. Francis in Pennsylvania. He was the NEC Freshman of the Year. Averaged, I think, 12 points per game, 6'8", from Middletown, Connecticut. Yeah, he averaged 11 points per game, 7.4 rebounds. Again, not a scorer though. And that I don't know. If I was going to go with a guy, I'd want Okpara because he can give you a little bit more on the offensive side of the ball. But beggars can't be choosers. If you lose out on Okpara, maybe Eli Wilborn's the name to go for. Whatever the case is, whatever Boston College is doing right now, it's been quiet. Earl Grant, as I said on yesterday's episode, he moves in silence. When there are players on campus, when he does visits, it's so different. And this is so interesting to me. College basketball is so different than college football in this sense. You get guys in college football, they're putting up photoshops of their visit. They're taking photoshops of their official visit, their top 12, their top 8. They've got most of these kids have, content for weeks. College basketball, you're going to get guys that do that. I'm not going to say that they don't, but you get a lot of guys, especially the guys BC goes after. You hear about it after the fact. The staff keeps it quiet. There's a strategy to that, right? You don't want to have them blow up. If there's a guy you want to keep it low key. You keep it off social media. You hear about it later. That's, I feel like, where BC's at with this transfer portal class. Right now, everyone is visiting everywhere, and I really doubt Boston College is the outlier there because they got too much work to do to say like, oh, we're gonna wait to see what happens. I imagine that they've been proactive, but with who we don't know because no one puts anything on social media when it comes to basketball. And right now, the recruits are pretty quiet, the staff is quiet. It makes it a little harder to read. And we've been trying to dig in and get things. We know TJ Power was on campus last week. We saw him. The fans went crazy trying to find him. But well, if we hear about Wilborn or we hear about Akpara possibly checking out Chestnut Hill, we'll be talking more about that. But we'll have to wait and see. Usually guys like John Rothstein, who's one of the big guys, or Jeff Goodman, usually the guys that get the Nuggets first. But sometimes we get them too. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Now let's flip this over to football. Let's take the TJ Power stuff and let's put it in the basement for now because we have other things that we need to talk about. And we need to talk about some new names you, as Boston College fans, need to know about when it comes to recruiting, including a New England recruit from a state that usually doesn't produce a ton of talent. We'll get into who that is in just a moment. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying, flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there's so much more good stuff in the game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much more to get with unique stickers, cool new places to travel, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. Taunting is so much fun in Monopoly Go. Plus, Monopoly Go feels like new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton, including their own mini games like digging for treasures or robot pachinko machines. There's so much to do in Monopoly Go. Every day, new fun things to find. There's always something to find, and go find it now on the Google Play or App Store. Game on! This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black. Now, let's dive into some football recruiting. You guys love that stuff. You eat it up. I know you're my little piggies that love talking about football recruiting. And so let's get into it because there was a name that came up at the Under Armour New Jersey camp that I wanted to talk to you guys about so you know who he is. And that is Merrick Ginn. And he is from Phillips Exeter Academy in New Hampshire. He's a class of 26 offensive linemen. Had a great camp. And his only offer is Boston College. Now, New Hampshire, this is a state that has some talent. Hunter Long went there. There was an offensive lineman, Dave Bowen, maybe, that was from New Hampshire. There was a kid last year, Exodus Ayers from New Hampshire. There's been a couple, but it's usually not a state you think of and think, wow, lots of talent in New Hampshire. So when we go back again to what Bill O'Brien has been preaching, that he wants to recruit locally, New Hampshire does count. It does if the talent's good enough. And I think Merrick Ginn is going to be good enough. He's lightly recruited now. A lot of 26 kids are. But after a performance like he had at the Under Armour camp, he could be someone to watch for. So, offensive lineman, local, this checks a lot of boxes of guys that I say, I wonder if O'Brien would pull the trigger on this. Not sure if he would yet, but he's someone I want to watch for. Merrick Ginn. So check him out. We have an article with him up on Eagle Insider. Another new name that I wanted to bring up is Marcellus Townsend of Blessed Trinity Catholic in Georgia. What's Blessed Trinity Catholic? Maybe you've heard of that. Bryce Lewis, son of defensive coordinator Tim Lewis, who I have a crystal ball in to commit to BC, plays there. Marcellus Townsend's his his teammate, excuse me. He's a cornerback. He's only got a couple offers, but he was offered by Boston College, class of 25, about 2 weeks ago. So he's a new offer. I heard he's going to be taking an official visit at the end of May with Bryce Lewis, again, who I have a crystal ball in for. would be an interesting one to watch for here, folks. He's a 6'0 athlete, probably going to play cornerback. Very interested in Boston College. His name is Marcellus Townsend. So make sure you check him out. And then finally, there hasn't been a ton of visitors at BC over the past couple weeks. You hear about a kid here or there that comes and visits, and the one that came today, when there's one, usually the staff tries to hide it. They won't tell me unless there's a big list of them. Is Dawson Poe. Dawson Poe is a 5'11 wide receiver from Tuscarora, uh, Virginia. He's got 7 offers already, class of 25. He was on campus this week. He was on campus today. Had a great visit. I've said, just like Earl Grant moves in silence, Darrell Wyatt, if he moves in silence, Darrell Wyatt moves like he is like the most elusive recruiter out there because you never know what move he's going to make. As I said last year, some members of the staff had no clue some of the players that he was recruiting because he kind of just did his own thing. Poe could be someone he likes. BC's got a ton of wide receivers that they've been interested in, and very good ones too. Poe only has one official visit set up to Duke. I could easily see him coming back to Boston College to check him out again. So Dawson Poe, that's a name you may want to know. So those are 3 names. I'm giving you the details. If you want more in depth, come over to Eagle Insider. We have everything there right now. We get coverage of all the recruiting, all the transfer portal, all the good stuff that you want here at Locked On BC. And on Eagle Insider. So my name's AJ Black. Follow me on Twitter at AJ Black247 and check out my work at Eagle Insider. Check out all the great work that we have going on there. We'll be back again tomorrow with more news, more updates, and everything you want to know about your Boston College Eagles. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day.